Everyone, it's Jess from Camerabyherside. I'm here with Jarod Clemons. Congratulations, album release day. How are you feeling today?
Nervous.
Yeah?
It's a whole new thing for me. So it's all new music. It's different from rock and blues, but it's a great thing.
Yeah, this is a debut album. So tell us about why you decided to drop a debut album. You've done singles, EPs. What made this the right time for you?
Um, you know, I got challenged a lot by the people around me. They were telling me to dig deeper with my music. I didn't get it for so long, and I started the late nights, and it used to be the party rock and roll band that we'd always go around and get trash and play gigs. But it got old really fast to me, and especially being sober for the year, it really opened my eyes to who I truly am as a songwriter, and I really dug deep with it, and you know, really found. I think I found the right note. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And something that should be noted is that every song on your debut album is written by you. That's correct?
Yes.
Co-writers or
Yeah.
it was solely you?
Well, Dan Hogan helped orchestrate everything, and Alex Strang is such a great guitar player, and Tom Devine is such a great bass player, and I did the drums on it, so because that's my first instrument from when I was a kid, so it kind of just all flowed, and we got in the same room with it.
And you guys had a pretty epic recording session. I heard it was 50 hours. You guys just went in and did the whole album. How did that come to be, and what was that situation like?
Well, in the studio, there's no windows unless you walk out of the studio, so we looked down at the clock. It's 6 o'clock. We're like, okay, whatever. We were going and going and going. I didn't get up from the drums once until I was done. And we looked at the time, and it was like 2 a.m. And we're like, oh man. I'm like, but I'm so motivated. And Joe was like, so am I. Like, let's just keep going. And all the guys were on the same page with it. And we just kept going and going. Well, we walked out of the studio to get some coffee and use the bathroom, and the sun was up. So it was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So we just, kept going. And that's pretty much it.
Would you do an album the same way again? Do you have a preference on how you record, or did you like that kind of situation? Would you like to do a little bit slower over time?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while for these songs to come to be. You know what I mean? Especially that song "Fatherless Child" on the album. That took me years. You know what I mean? And I didn't really understand my dad's life until I did my own, research on him, and reading his book and hearing stories of him, because I got him for a short period of time when I was a kid. And that song just came out. No, I can't even tell you the night that I wrote that song. Honestly, like I don't even remember writing half of the songs in the album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say this album is so personal. It's very vulnerable. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of similar themes in the songs have to do with loss, kind of abandonment, your family. What was it like opening up about all of that stuff? Does it come naturally because songwriting is cathartic, or is it a little like scary?
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
But I started writing a book here and there, and like obviously like I'm not gonna sit and write the whole thing in one sitting, but like over time I'm gonna write my book about my life. And I was sitting in a room just writing in my journal, and I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I love rock and blues, but like this means so much more to people, because there's people out there that relate to my story and have gone through something like me, or are going through something like me, so it's relatable.
Yeah, I was going to say you live a lot of life and you're still obviously very young, but your music is so powerful in that way because you can share these stories.
I appreciate that.
Is there any songs that you have a hard time singing on stage, or can you kind of get through them all? Because you have some pretty heavy songs.
I mean, tonight's a real test.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see. But Fatherless Child, I played at my last two shows for my dad, which were it was very hard to sing that song. Growing up, I was sitting in my apartment in Bradley, just strumming my guitar, singing that song, and I was crying because I spent 5 years of my life there, and I wrote this album in that apartment.
Yeah.
So it's all very emotional, and one day I want to do like the explanation behind each song, but they all play a part in the story.
Yeah, I would love to hear you do a storytelling session,
Yeah.
because it would be very interesting. But I think that you're giving us a lot in these lyrics. So thank you for sharing that with all of us,
Yeah, of
because I'm
course.
sure it will make an impact on a lot of people. But can you tell us a little about your roots here at the Jersey Shore? We're at Asbury Lanes tonight for your album release, but you have roots here. You've lived here for quite a while. What's it been like in the music scene here for you?
Things been good, complicated, good, complicated. It's a music scene. Not everything's gonna flow smoothly. We're all family, but I first came up here on a solo tour, not a solo tour. I was with this other guy at the time, and we came up here together. And I'm not gonna mention his name. It was a little toxic, but so we came up here on a tour. I had like no idea like how powerful this place was, and I came here and everybody was so caring. You know what I mean? It was like family I never met pretty much, and it just felt this like you take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. You're like, this feels like home. So I went back to Florida where I was living at the time, and I left the girl I was with, and I just moved up here, and
Wow.
it was just like a huge step for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying, like, when I see you live all the time, you have a lot of great quotes, talk about your family, kind of talking about how you got into drums and now you're into more songwriting and guitar. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey through music and how it led you to having your own debut album?
Yeah, of course. When I was 5 years old, I got home from school, and my brother sat me on a drum kit, and I was playing better than the guy on the radio. He says, you know what I mean. So it was just natural, I guess. And I've been playing, and then I lost my dad, unfortunately. So I started strumming the guitar a little bit, but I didn't really pay no mind to it. And then I lost my mom a year and some change after that. I started playing the guitar a little more, and then I got forced to move out to Arizona. So around 14, 15, I really just took the guitar and you know, I went into my first music competition shortly after that, and they told me like it was. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like it's not even good," and I didn't understand why. And until I realized that I had to be myself and express myself through the instrument. The instrument's not going to do the job for me. You know what I mean? And so that's where I dug with this album, was to let the instrument speak. And that's why growing up in Smoke's Horizon sounds so dark, because I was a completely different tuning I've never played in before, and I tuned one of my guitars at the time to that tuning, and those songs just like wrote themselves. It was insane.
Yeah, I was going to say, listening to the album, obviously the heavy subjects, but when I was listening to Barely Hanging On, I was getting like a John Mayer vibe. I don't know, were you channeling any other inspirations? Obviously, you have a lot going on. You have a lot of different interests in music. You have it in your blood. What were you feeling when you're in the studio?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I was just so locked in, and everything was just like clockwork. You know what I mean? And it didn't feel like I was trying to force something. It was working itself. And that song "Sleepless Nights" was only a demo when I went in there. It was just something I hummed on the phone, and I sang a few little things, and then I sat down on the floor and was writing those lyrics out. And I just started crying, and I was like, wow. And then Joe was like, we should call the album "Sleepless Nights." I'm like, I don't know. And then I was listening to it like a couple months back, and I was just crying. And I'm like, yeah, that's the album.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, your album cover is also a photo of you from when you were young.
Yeah.
Tell us how you choose that photo as the album cover.
I look like I was curious. You know what I mean? And trying, like, not that like at the time, like I was thinking about who I was becoming, but I had no realization who I was going to become at that age. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a cool picture to see, like, being a kid messing with the stick in the grass. You know what I mean? So it just like made sense.
It definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have coming up next after you drop this album? Are you planning to record some more, go on tour? What's the plan?
Find a manager. That's the biggest thing. That's the hardest thing that we can't even keep a manager in this band. But that's the next step. But no, in all seriousness, just working on the next project. I already got like 5 or 6 songs in the bank right now, ready for it. So
I've been lucky enough to see you guys play live. I've seen you solo, acoustic with your band. How do you decide when you want to go acoustic? I know the album is pretty heavily not like rock and roll, like when you're usually with the Late Nights, a little more somber. How do you like kind of go with that vibe?
Well, now it's kind of like the Late Nights aren't really a band anymore, because I feel like we've matured past that name. So we're just right now going by the Jarod Clemons band, and I think that it's a good mix, because we're all happy with it. Dan's especially happy that he's like, yes, you finally get it. I'm like, I know. And Al's having the time of his life playing these songs too, because he gets to play all of his. He's a huge Deadhead, so he gets to play all those like twangy lead parts and stuff like that, and he has a great time doing that. So I think that we found a really good balance with this album. So I think this is the route we're going to go, and continue with it. We're still going to play Late Nights tunes and stuff like that. We might play a couple tonight. Who knows?
Some Ramblewood Parkway, maybe.
Maybe. We'll think about it.
Yeah. And where can everyone find you online? You can plug your album. Camera.
Jarod Clemons, Jarod, not 2 R's and an O instead of an E. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find the album on all streaming platforms. Jarod Clemons, Sleepless Nights.